Yeah, this might be the craziest first date of all time. Do you have a crazy first date story? I'd love to know that. I have one. Not with my wife, with my ex. I hope she's watching.
Psychopath!
So Drops in theaters this weekend. It's directed by Christopher Landon from Freaky, Happy Death Day. A few movies that I really enjoy. We're often seeing Landon in the horror genre, this time more in the thriller genre, but I really liked this premise.
Thank you.
Have fun.
Bye.
Think I only want one number in my phone.
Just a date.
I might change it.
And the beginning of this movie, the opening scene, kind of brutal. I said it's not a horror movie, but you could misinterpret that first scene as, oh, okay, that's what we're in for. But then we fast forward, we go into modern day. That was the tragic backstory. Now, she's trying to get back out into the world. She met a guy, seems like a cool dude, on a dating app, going up to a high floor of this building in this fancy restaurant. This is the first time she's been out in a long time. She's been talking to this poor dude, leading him on for months. Now, she's just taking her time to recover and heal, but now she's ready to get back out there. Well, unbeknownst to her, when she gets up there on that date, she starts receiving these, they're like airdrops, but they're not airdrops. And this film, a few times, mostly towards the end, but a few times in the beginning, asks you to suspend disbelief. And not that people sending you a couple of airdrops here and there is unbelievable, but the way they approach it in the beginning, there were a few moments where I'm like, okay, it was a little weird, maybe a conversation here and there, but the main piece of marketing going into this movie is teasing this giant mystery. She doesn't know who's sending her these airdrops, and what they're telling her to do leads into a night of pure madness and unbelievable events to the side, again, mostly focusing on the ending. We'll get there. I really enjoyed the thrills and chills that came from this idea. And the way it comes to life, too, when they start doing the messaging portion of this weird airdrop app that isn't airdrop, when they first show the message on screen, I'm like, it's a little over the top with how they're presenting it. And I was worried it was going to be style over substance, but I got used to that. And the more it happened, the more unnerved I was getting as an audience member. And I was really in tune with this mystery. I'm trying to figure out, and inevitably we get to a point where predictability does creep in, but I'm trying to figure out as this movie's going, because they give you clues that maybe aren't clues all throughout the film, and they're swerving you in several different directions to the point where I'm kind of impressed with what the screenwriters were able to do here, kind of keeping you on edge the entire time, but also looking at her poor date, and the whole time he's just like, what is going on? This girl is losing her marbles, but he stays calm.
This is a load of barnacles.
Henry seems like a good dude. She seems like someone who really wanted this date to work, but because of the threats that she's receiving through this airdrop, she has to do what they say while at the same time trying to figure out, okay, how do I not do what they say? Because what they're telling me to do is crazy. And this whole movie is crazy. I really like the restaurant. I feel like the restaurant itself, I don't know how they did the set with the production design, but it felt like a character, because all throughout this very fancy location, and this waiter that plays as the comedic relief comes over, has a couple of gags. Honestly, I found him to be very funny. At first, I'm like, oh no, he's going to be annoying. And he was annoying, intentionally annoying to our two people on a date, but he worked very well for the audience, kind of adding levity to an otherwise detrimental situation. But that's kind of the tone that Landon's often working with as a director, and as a fan of his movies, I'm glad he decided to go in that direction instead of keeping it entirely serious, because this exact same movie, taking itself too seriously, could have fallen really flat. Instead, it has some fun. And because it's having fun with this premise, we are having fun with this premise, and even though the detrimental situation that this poor girl is in, we're still enjoying some of the more comedic elements that spawn from that, because she's going so crazy on this date, and Henry's just like, maybe we should have waited 3 more months, because this girl's crazy. But again, we're meeting a few of these supporting players, and you are trying to figure out, are they part of it? Are they the person that's sending the airdrops? You think you have your suspicions. Are you or are you not onto it as an audience member? And this is just a really fun premise that will provide a fun time at the movies. If You don't fully turn your brain on and start questioning some of the more over-the-top elements. And that's what leads me to the end of this movie. 2/3 of the way through, I'm thinking, oh, good, a movie that won't be divisive. And then we get to the end that takes things, I'm not going to say it shifts the tone entirely, because again, the movie's having fun all throughout, but it takes it to an extra level, maybe that I wasn't ready for. It goes from like a mystery thriller to something that felt more like an over-the-top obnoxious action movie to a moment that felt like it was straight out of the Fast and Furious franchise. I know you're thinking, what is he talking about? The thing that happens in the third act, while building up to that, was really cool, and I liked the intensity of the situation. It did take me out of it a little bit, and it was very jarring for someone who was on board with the more comedic tone, but I didn't think it would go that far. And then pushing it to another level when we exit the location, which we do for a little bit of time. I won't say exactly what happens, but a lot of those things were unbelievable. And the more I talk about this, I think I'm going to do a spoiler section here in a second. I will just say the action-heavy moments were just kind of like, oh, all right.
What the fuck is this?
And honestly, it kind of takes away from the more grounded elements of the movie, the edge-of-your-seat type feel that the rest of the film had, and then you get your ending where it's like, oh, okay, well, you know, I don't know if that's the way that, obviously it's the way it happened, but I don't know if that's the way it should have went. It did kind of lose me where I was laughing with it the entire movie. I started laughing at it, and you don't want to laugh at what this poor girl's going through, but you know, I kind of was, because I'm like, that's ridiculous. That wouldn't have happened that way. But it ultimately happens that way. And so no more pushing the edge of spoilers here. I'm going to go ahead and give you my score, and then we'll talk a little more about the ending. Look, I enjoyed it. I did. It's conceptually interesting, a tight 90-minute runtime, which is phenomenal for a movie like this. Entertaining. People will be entertained with a nice amount of comedic relief. You are going to be cringing for the poor guy who is on this date, but what they get caught up into is fun, and it's still fun at the end. I like that it's having fun, but it does somewhat, or did, lose me at that point. Drop brings an excellent amount of intensity to the table, taking a fun concept and injecting a nice bit of humor into what will keep viewers locked in until the end. Landon continues to understand what audiences are looking for from an entertainment perspective. What could cause some division is how it all wraps up, relying heavily on suspension of disbelief. This did kind of take me out of it, but the journey itself makes it worth the ride. Spoilers ahead, and we're not going to spend too much time. I just want to tell you what I was questioning throughout this film, and only one real moment in the beginning when he's looking at all the people who are on this app within a certain distance from them who are airdropping her. And he looks around for like 5 seconds, sits down and says, okay, I don't see the mystery person in here. It's got to be someone else. I'm like, bro, how'd you count all those people in 5 seconds? That's not what I'm complaining about. What really bugged me is how this movie wrapped up. And I thought the journey was so excellent throughout. On the edge of your seat, she's going around. Is it the waitress that she talked to at the beginning? Is it their waiter? Is it the guy that she keeps running into? Or is it, and my brain really started to pick up on it when his date, the person who went on a blind date, stands up. I think she yelled at him and then left, and he's just sitting there by himself, and he kept sitting there. And then I'm thinking, okay, why is he still sitting there? And we do go back to him a couple of times, and I feel like Landon was very intentional about this, kind of showcasing him, and then he'll glance at our lead, and they'll make eye contact. And then ultimately, right before she figured it out, is when I started to figure it out. And that's great. It wasn't super obvious. A little obvious, but not crazy obvious. So I thought they did a great job there. What ended up being a little crazy for me is when she faked putting the poison in his drink, which the whole time I'm thinking she's going to find a way out of it. She did, and put it in his, what was it? Was it a creme brulee? Is that what? I don't remember. Doesn't matter. She slips it into his dessert. He eats it instead, and he realizes he's going to die of poison. But while he's doing that, he's trying to shoot our girl, and that's when it goes from mystery thriller to pure action movie. He's got a gun. Our hero jumps in front of the bullet. He stabs the waitress, and then he shoots the glass. The glass implodes or explodes, doesn't matter, and sucks our title character out the window, and she grabs onto like a curtain or a tablecloth, and she's just dangling there. I'm like, that is so far-fetched compared to what we were just watching. And I'm not saying I would have come up with a better ending, but the ability for me to go from something that was a little more grounded to, oh my God, she's dangling out the window with this tablecloth ripping, and he just so happens to be there at the right time and pull her up. I'm like, all right, it's an action movie. But then it takes it a step further. She gets in her vehicle. She's doing like 180s in the... She looks like Vin Diesel driving in Fast and Furious, driving to get her son. And I understand that it, established that she's not too far away from her house. But the fact that she got there before both of them were killed, when she was on the top floor of that restaurant, I just can't... If it was a different movie that established that suspension of disbelief a lot earlier, okay, but it's not. And I can't buy that. I understand that they, told you how far she was away from it, yet, but I can't buy that this dude didn't kill both of those people and even shot her sister, and her sister was alive. I'm like, man, you're asking a lot from me. I mean, there's bullet holes in the bed. I just, man, it was a lot at the end, but they're all okay. Everybody's fine. Nobody died except for the poor piano player and then the villain. So nobody we cared about died. And so it's a film that's having fun with its premise. It understands that it needs to bring a little bit of humor and comedy and some things to alleviate the seriousness of the situation. And it's a really entertaining journey, and if it wouldn't have ended on such an escalated note, I think my score would have been a lot higher. But because it escalates it so far, even the falling out the window thing, I'm like, all right, fine. But then to buy that she gets there before he makes his way up to that bedroom or gets in, and not only that, but how she's driving, I'm like, is this girl a race car driver? It's fun. Christopher Landon's having fun. It was a fun film, and I'm not trying to take away from anyone's enjoyment, but that's where I believe the division will be between me and other audience members. I'm just not quite there on the ending. It asked a lot of me, but I still maintain that this is a very enjoyable movie. If you like this genre, the mystery thriller genre, I think you're going to love this, or at least have a lot of fun with it. And I'm curious to see, if you've watched the movie, what you think of the ending. All right, I don't do spoiler stuff that often. If you enjoy it and you want me to do more at the end of my reviews, then I'll do more. If not, it's cool. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm watching Warfare tonight.